Let me get everything. Sure, we're good to. Sure, we're good to go here. Should be. Make sure everybody can hear us okay. Hopefully the audio is coming in all right. Let me double check. Okay, I think we got it. All right. So here's what we're gonna do this morning. We are going to cover, and I'm reading into some of the non-recourse agreements. Okay. Um, Lots of folks have been sold on non-recourse agreements in truck factoring, right? So in freight factoring in general, non-recourse has been a big conversational topic because it's always about protecting your downside risk, protecting your exposure, not putting you in a bind, that sort of thing. Today we're going to cover exactly why that doesn't work, and hopefully help you guys out. So, non recourse is sold to you and packaged as a get out of risk, or risk free factoring, where in the event that your customer does not pay their bill, the factoring company will take the hit for that, right? They will absorb the risk and they will. Make it to where your customers, you're going to get paid no matter what. You don't have any fear of retaliation, or what they're saying retaliation. People describe that as retaliation, but it's recourse, right? So there's non-recourse and there's recourse. So when you submit an invoice to a factoring company, you have about a 90-day window in most cases where the factoring company is going to purchase your invoice. Now, that is all based upon the fact that the factoring company is pre-approving what invoices they're purchasing based on who the customer is that you're doing the work for. And they're verifying that company or that entity has enough credibility to pay their bill. And the factoring company finds them to be reasonable and says, yeah, we'll buy that invoice. So then you sell the invoice to them, right? So you're trying to get paid quickly. And so you sell the invoice to them. That starts your 90 days. So from the moment the factoring company purchases the invoice, and when I say purchases the invoice, you can also marry that up along with advancing you the funds. So when they purchase the invoice versus when your funds get married up. So they're going to advance funds. They're going to purchase your invoice. Normally happens on the same day or at the same time, generally speaking, right then and there. So now the factoring company bought it. Now, if you were in the non-recourse side of the house, you would think, all right, my invoice got bought. They're going to go collect on the customer. If anything goes wrong, I'm going to get paid, or they're going to take the hit. I'm not going to take the hit. That's what you would think, okay, in a non-recourse situation. Now, that's being how it's marketed. Now, recourse is being sold as, okay, if anything goes wrong and somebody doesn't pay inside that 90 days, my customer can can not pay me, and then the factoring company can charge me back. But I want you guys to understand that that's not the truth of it. Okay. Now, on the recourse side, yes, the factoring company can charge you back, but there's a lot of nuances to this that don't get explained in a 15-minute sales call when you're talking to a 21-year-old kid who's trying to get you off the phone and send you some information, right? Because they don't know, they're not owners, they've never been an owner. So a lot of them don't know how this is actually going to pertain to your business. So I want you to understand that this will actually impact your business negatively if you just blindly trust this. Okay. So if you get in a situation where you are looking at a non-recourse deal, I want you to understand that a non-recourse deal in almost every single case is going to cover you only if your customer were to go out of business and or well and not or and file for bankruptcy inside the original 90-day purchase window. Meaning, if they do not come along and um, go out of business and file for bankruptcy in 90 days, you're going to be up the creek. Now, how do I know this to be true? Well, a few things. One, I've been reading almost every agreement that's ever come across our desk from any competitor we've ever seen. I'm not here to sell you our factoring services. I don't care if you buy them. I'm here to educate you so that you go to a factoring company, you know what the hell you're talking about when you go to them. because I don't want you screwed, and you're going to get screwed if you talk to the wrong people. Not all of them work the same. They are not created equal. Please do not think that they are. And the only major differences between the two that you will spot, if you do spot any at all, will be inside the contractual agreement, not on the face value. It's going to be in the language. And here's why. I pulled a contract in and I had ChatGPT break it down Barney style, put it into plain language. And this is directly from a competitor's contract for non-recourse. So we are not jacking around when I tell you that this is what this actually says. Factor takes on credit risk non-payment, but with conditions. The factor will buy the invoices without recourse, meaning the client won't be responsible if the customer doesn't pay, so long as the client fully performs services. There is no dispute. Let me repeat this for any of the people in the back. No dispute. Meaning if you have any issues at all, they ain't doing it. So that tells you up front, you ain't covered, buddy, because how quick is it for a broker to dispute it? Doesn't take no time. So if there's a dispute, they ain't buying it. The client cannot negotiate the settlements, the discounts, the adjustments with the customer without the factor's approval. Okay. The factor accepts the risk of non-payment only if the customer fails to pay for one of these reasons. The customer assigns its assets to creditors as a part of insolvency, meaning that they sold it off. Okay. They needed additional funding. The customer files for bankruptcy or is forced into bankruptcy. The customer negotiates with creditors to restructure or reduce its debt. So if the customer, mind you, guys, we're talking about a broker or a direct shipper if you're a truck driver. Okay. And if you're a broker, you're talking about your shipper. Okay. It's all the same. So this is saying that the customer negotiates with creditors to restructure or reduce its debts. That means that if the customer has any kind of restructuring whatsoever, they just go into any form. They don't even have to go out of business. They just have to restructure. If they do that, they're not covering you either. The customer is financially unable to pay. And the factor determines this based on evidence. Okay. Meaning, they will only cover you if they get to go through the customer's entire financial book and determine that there's no way they couldn't have paid you the $1,000, which is almost never going to be the way it works for you. So even if you took like a $5,000 load, unless they can go and financially prove that the customer had absolutely no ability to pay that $5,000, then maybe they'll cover you. Okay. The customer doesn't pay for any reason other than a dispute, bankruptcy, or financial disaster or distress. So, do you notice how they said other than a dispute? Because they know that the number one reason for non payment that they see as a factoring company is disputing. Guys, when it comes to you as a truck driver working with your customers and trying to make sure you get paid, and you're working with a factor and you're worried about your downside exposure, let me preface this by saying the most simplistic way that you could help yourself is by simply making sure to do the things you said you were going to do on your rate confirmation. Do your job. That's all you have to do. Read your paperwork, make sure you're doing it to the nines. Document your process. Guys, photos of the load, photos of the paperwork, photos of the shipping location, photos at delivery, photos along the way within probably the first 250 miles, right? Because you're rechecking your load. Take photos, guys. Back yourself up with every bit of evidence you can get. And again, the problem is for truck drivers, especially if you're a one owner operation, this is very challenging because you're doing this in addition to all your other daily functions, right? So it's incredibly difficult to keep up with this and be rigid about it. But if you can be this rigid and disciplined, please be. But what you really want to do is keep a collective of all the evidence for every load you haul. You can do this in a few ways if you're using files on your computer, or maybe you're using a TMS manager or some software to kind of manage your documentation. This will help you tremendously, because if a load comes up with any issue, mind you, the customer has forever to basically come up with a claim, right? 9 months, they can come up with a claim. So if they come up with anything in return, in arrear, you want to make sure you've got evidence, substantial evidence to back you up, to protect you. Okay. So that's a big deal. That will alleviate a lot of the dispute issues that these guys are having. The reason that these guys are talking about not covering you in the event of a dispute is because that's the actual reason for non-payment in most cases. So please, guys, read through the lines when you read these agreements with these factoring companies. They're not all created equal. So just be careful, okay? Here's the bottom line and what it says. If the customer simply doesn't pay due to bankruptcy, financial distress, or other reasons unrelated to a dispute, the factor takes a loss. If there is a dispute about the invoice, quality issues, incorrect billing, etc., the client is responsible. The client cannot negotiate settlements with the customer without the factor's approval. So that's only one agreement. And even then, it tells you that they're not going to cover you without disputes. There were three other agreements I ran through, all through the same process. And you know what ended up coming out of it? You, as the person who were selling the agreements, had absolutely no control. The factoring companies did not pay, unless, and it was all for the same reason. So insolvency, bankruptcy, fine. But other than that, they put that debt right back on you. Um, so the thing is, right, like when you're in a situation, the reason why they use non-recourse and they sell the shit out of it, because you would think to yourself, like, why would you sell me non-recourse if it doesn't actually cover me? Right? Why would you do that? It doesn't even protect me. So why is it a product? It's a product because it's marketable. Okay. Most products that you're going to see in the financial space from these people that are doing things like this, where they're coming out with these non-recourse awesome deals and all this, there's no protections to you. It's just more marketing, but it's effective marketing, because if I put it in there and I tell you, hey, you come to us, sell us your invoices, we're going to give you money. That's the first sales pitch. But then you come up to me and you say, hey, I'm going to sell you invoices. And I say, cool, I'll buy your invoices and I'll pay you money. And if they don't pay, I will take the hit. Hmm. So guess what? If you're standing between two offers, one person offering to to buy your invoices, but didn't say anything about taking, some risk. And then you talk to this company over here and they're saying, well, we'll take on risk if the customer doesn't pay. Hmm. I'm probably going that way, right? I'm probably going to go the route of least risk, right? Least resistance, least risk. So they're marketing it deliberately like that. They're selling you into agreements that really add more contractual language to your agreement, because a non-recourse agreement is almost always longer in contractual language than a standard agreement. So that's like crazy long. But then on top of it, they're selling you a pipe dream and you're buying. So quit buying, guys. Non-recourse is only going to cover you if the customer goes out of business and files bankruptcy. Just understand that. They're going to go out of business and they got to file bankruptcy. They got to show insolvency. Your customer would literally have to go out and show insolvency. Let me explain something. The process to go out of business and to file bankruptcies and do all that is going to be probably longer than 90 days. So they might talk to an attorney. They might tell the factoring company they're gonna, but the factoring company is going to do one other caveat that I have yet to mention so far. They're going to make sure that the rationale and reason behind the customer going out of business is actually filed, not spoken about. It has to be filed. They have to see some legal proof. You could call any broker in the world, and a broker could tell you, well, I'm going to be going out of business, so I ain't paying my bill. You think the factoring company just can go, well, all right, Dave, that sounds bad, but we'll just go ahead and cover the customer on this one. No, they're not going to cover you. Okay. They're going to sell you whatever agreement they can sell you. It is on you as a driver to ask the differences and the specifics behind the things that are being offered to you by these financial companies. Just as it is your responsibility as a consumer when you're buying products from somebody to ask about them, right? You wouldn't just go buy a car because it was black and that's the color you liked, or because it was green and it was sitting over there with the black wheels that you really want. you're not going to buy a car just because of that. You're going to go and ask questions. How much does it cost? What do you want for it? How many miles are on it? What's the motor in it, right? What kind of fuel does it take? You're going to ask questions. Why is it that when we get to these financial arrangements as business owners, we don't ask these questions? These are plain Jane questions, guys. These are very simple things for us to answer with each other and for us to, get some truth on. And they're decisions that we could avoid if they were bad. Okay. The thing is, nobody wants to talk about this because nobody wants you to know the dirt. I can talk about it because I came from the trucking industry. I've been a carrier, I've been a truck driver, I've been a broker owner, I've been a freaking dispatcher, I've had a leasing company. I've done all of these things for myself and I've had to grow my own business myself. And now I work in a factoring company. So I know what these people are saying and what they're doing and how it actually, from the bottom line, impacts your business. So the question then becomes, is this the first time you've heard this? If this is the first time you are hearing about non-recourse and recourse factoring and you are just baffled beyond belief, or you never knew the information, do me a huge favor. Smash the thumbs up button, smash the like button, show the algorithm that the information is worth a darn to you or worth a darn to others, and let's get it out there. Okay. My goal is not to sell you. I don't care if you come over, you can come over to our factoring company whenever you want. You can go look us up whenever you want. I'm not going to sell you on us. I'm going to talk to you about the facts. If you like to listen to the facts and know the information prior to going into negotiations with these people, this is what this information's for. Okay. If I can help answer your questions, I'll be more than happy to do that, factoring related or otherwise. You can send an email to hollandcash69@gmail, and I will pick up your conversation from there. You can also leave a question in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer them. And to be honest, if you're comfortable having that question open air and being out there in front of everybody, I really, really encourage you to just leave an open comment on the video because other people are going to go to those comments to look for those responses, to look for those questions, to look for those answers. And your question is almost always in line with somebody else in this country. So please don't think that it's a silly question to ask anything about this factoring. Okay. This is a financial arrangement for your business. Okay. You need to take it seriously. Please understand that. Reading the language on these agreements is everything. It is critical to your success or your failure. Knowing that you're not protected helps you understand to put money in the bank for a rainy day. When you live under false pretenses and operate under false pretenses, you're going to be operating thinking that you've got coverage you really don't have and thinking you're protected in situations when you're really not. And it's just going to put you in a bind. Okay. I don't want you in a bind. I want you to be successful. And if I can help you along the way, I'll surely do that. Other than that, you guys be safe, be healthy, be happy, keep your shiny sides up at all times. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you watching it live. Make sure, again, like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff like we do all the time. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. Stay careful out there and make a ton of money. Remember, trucking's what you make of it. We will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.